Walter Rimm, a former slave story. You wants to know about slavery? Well, I's had a deal happen sides dat, but I's born on Captain Hatch's plantation, crossed the bay from Corpus Christi. He had somewheres near 50 slaves, and Mammy told me he buyed her in Tennessee and Pappy in South Carolina. Massa Hatch buys and sells niggers some dem days, but he ain't a nigger trader. Dem sales am one thing what make depression on me. I hears the old folks whisper about gwine have the sale, and about noon there am a crowd of white folks in the front yard and a nigger trader with his slaves. They sets up a platform in middle the yard, and one white man gets on dat, and another. White man comes up and has a white woman with him. She 'pears to be about 15 years old and has long black hair down her back. They puts her on the platform, and then I hears a scream, and a woman what looked like the gal cries out, "I'll cut my throat if my daughter am sold." The white man goes and talks to her, and finally lows her to take the young gal away with her. That show stirs up some motion 'mongst the white folks, but they say that gal have just a low nigger blood and can be sold for a slave, but she look white as anybody I ever seed. I pulls weeds and runs errands while I's a child. We has some good eats, but has to steal the best things from the white folks. They never give us none of them. We has roastin' ears better'n they cooks them now. We puts them, shucks and all, into hot ashes. Mammy makes good ash cake with salt and cornmeal and bacon grease and flats it out with the hands. Massa and Missus took they goodness by spells like. Sometimes they was hard to get long with, and sometimes they was easy to get long with. I don't know the cause, but it am so. The most is trouble 'em about the work. They wants you to work if you can or can't. My pappy have the back misery, and many de time I seed him crawl to the grist mill. Him am bide, 'cause him am the good mill hand. He tells us his pappy am white, and that one reason he am the runawayer. I's scared all the time because he run away. I seed him get one whippin', and nothing I can do 'cept stand there and cry. They gets whippin's every time Massa feels cross. One slave named Bob Love, when Massa start to whip him, he cuts his throat and dives into the river. He am that scared of a whippin' that he killed himself. My pappy wasn't 'fraid of nothing. He am light-colored from the white blood, and he runs away several times. There am big woods all round, and we sees lots of runawayers. One old fellow named John been a runawayer for 4 years, and the patter-rollers tries all-day tricks, but they can't catch him. They wants him bad, 'cause it spire other slaves to run away if he stays a-loose. They sots the trap for him. They knows he like good eats, so they ranges for a quiltin' and gives chitlins and lie hominy. John comes and am inside when the patter-rollers rides up to the door. Everybody gets quiet, and John stands near the door. And when they starts to come in, he grabs the shovel full of hot ashes and throws them into the patter-rollers' faces. He gets through and runs off, hollering, "Bird in the air." One woman, named Rhodey, runs off for long spell. The hounds won't hunt her. She steals hot light bread when they puts it in the window to cool, and lives on dat. She told my mammy how to keep the hounds from following you is to take black pepper and put it in you socks and run without you shoes. It make the hounds sneeze. One day I's in the woods and meets the nigger runawayer. He comes to the cabin and mammy makes him a bacon and egg sandwich, and we never seed him again. Maybe he done got clear to Mexico, where a lot of the slaves runs. 2. The first we knows about war and when some Union ships comes into the bay and shoots at Corpus Christi. When that shootin' start, all the folks round us takes to the woods, and several am still gone. They am shaking all over. About the 3rd year of the war, Massa moves up to Clinton, but he moves back, 'cause he can't make no money there. Then he have all the quarters move up close to the big house, so if we tries to make the run for it in the night, he can catch us. That no use, 'cause the ones what am still with him won't run anyway. One day I seed Massa settin' on the gallery, and him face all screw up. He says, "Go get you mammy and everybody." I goes a-flyin'. My shirt tail don't hit my back till I tells everybody. Massa am cryin', and he reads the paper and says, "You as free as I is. What you gwine do?" Mammy says, "We am stayin'. Right here." But next morning, Pappy borrows a ox team to tote our stuff away. We goes about 60 miles and stays about 6 months, then takes a place where we can make a crop. Then Massa tells us we can live on the old place without the rent and have what we can make. So we moves back and stays 2 years. Then we moves. Several places, and sometimes old missus comes to see us and say, "Ain't you shame? The Yankees is feeding you." But they wasn't, 'cause we was making a crop. When I gets up big enough to hire out, I works for Old Man King on. Some drives for Pappy and Mammy dies of the fever. Then I marries Minnie Bennett, a light-colored gal, what am knowed as High Yaller. Her mammy am a white woman. She was kidnapped in Kentucky by some white men, and they dyed her hair and skin and brung her to Texas with some slaves for sale. Massa means, in corpus, bide her. She was so small, all she remembered was her real name was Mary Schloss, and her parents am white, and she lived in Kentucky. Massa Means comes in the next morning and busts out cussin'. For there am black dye all over the pillow, and his slave am getting blonde. But them slave traders am gone, so he can't do nothing. He sides to keep her, and she grows up. With the slaves, just like she am a nigger. She gets used to being with them and marries one. She has one child for freedom, what am Minnie. She has to run away to get freedom, 'cause Massa Means won't let her have freedom. Lots of slaves has to do that. Well, after I marries Minnie, we goes to the famous King Ranch. It was only in 2 sections den, and I hires as cook on the San Gertrudis section, but am sent to the other section, the Fuerte Agua Dulce, and works there. 15 years. Old Man King has plenty trouble in them days. One time, some Mexicans comes to Brownsville and takes everything as they goes. Old Man King had 2 cannons, and when they has battle, they finishes with 1 cowboy dead and 1 Mexican dead. No cannons was fired, though. He has more troubles with rustlers and fellows who don't like the way he's getting all the land. They tries to kill him lots of times, but he fools them and dies in bed. I comes to Fort Worth and cooks. Minnie dies for long of the stomach misery. I works for a Mrs. Goats and marries Agnes Skelton, what works there too. We has 5 chillin', and I works there for 25 years till I goes blind. I's Alice the big stout fella, helping somebody, and after I's blind, I has to depend on other people to help me. The white folks shall been good to me since. I been in dis shape, and the state sends me $13 a month to pay the bills with. Dat a big help, but I's about 3-4 weeks hind now. One Old Man King's daughters am here and looks me up and leaves me a couple dollars. I gets long some way. I sets here and thinks about old times. One song we used to sing was "Throw the Smokehouse Keys Down the Well." That 'cause there's so many thieves in the country, everybody have big locks on the smokehouse if they specs to keep they meat.